Greetings from the city of brotherly love. I am Fernando Mendez, host of the Roundtable. We invite you to listen to our discussion of the themes of the day when we bring you regional, national, and international news. Señores oyentes de Usala Radio, estamos aquí de nuevo con su programa La Mesa Redonda, The Roundtable, desde el corazón de la ciudad del amor fraternal, from the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. Les habla Fernando Méndez en compañía de un amigo que está presentando su candidatura para el Consejo Municipal, Drew Murray, who is running for City Council at large. Welcome, Drew.
Thank you, Mr. Mendez. Glad to be back.
Drew had his own show, The Republican Zone,
Sure.
which is coming back, right?
Yes.
That's where he will promote his ideas, which I opposed many of them, but that's the whole thing about this kind of conversation is that we don't agree on so many things.
I think we agree on most things, Mr. Mendez. It drives you nuts that you basically have Republican views. But.
It's tragic. How is that candidacy running right now?
It's good. Campaign, it's busy. So I will be on the ballot November 8th for the special election, which, and this all only came about 3-4 weeks ago. In May, I had announced my candidacy for City Council at large for next year, for May 2023 and November 2023. But because 2 City Council at large members, Alan Dom and Derek Green, stepped down to run for mayor, now there's a special election. A lot of people were surprised about. The Council President Clark, was not originally going to do it. So it came as a surprise to many. And when it did happen, it was full speed ahead for the commissioner's office had to jump through hoops just to make this happen in order to get the mail-in ballots out as soon as they possibly could. It was delayed a little bit. But yeah, very busy, going full speed ahead. Luckily, I had announced, so I had some money to put out there for literature, for lawn signs, for my billboards. So, and we're just working hard every night, every day.
Well, that's the main thing. There are quite a few people running for City Council, probably as many people as are thinking of running for mayor.
There's a lot running for mayor.
One of the reasons a few of them left City Council, among them Maria Quiñones, and then the 2 seats that you just mentioned.
Yeah, Maria, Sherelle Parker, Rebecca Reinhardt just stepped down.
She just did, yes. I had interviewed her before for the show, and I contacted her. I thought she was going to come on the show, and then the message came back that she had quit and she was running for mayor.
She was coming on as a control. She should have come on anyway. She should have come then as a potential mayor candidate.
Now she'll come as a candidate for mayor, which is going to be a very tight race. I don't know, from all those people running, it's going to be a lot of money spent.
It's going to be a lot of money.
And one of my complaints has always been they don't spend on Spanish media. Mm-hmm. So maybe a little more. Than now they spend some on Telemundo and Univision, which are the big guys. But some of the newspapers go begging, and we would like to have some of that over here too. So
I promise you I will, Mr. Mendez.
Thank you.
This was a quick campaign, 3-4 weeks. Money was a little tight. But I do have you saw my palm card because you helped me. You confirmed that it was a good translation in Spanish. So
actually, I'm not responsible for that translation, but I
you okayed
that it was accurate, yes. It's important in a way to reach to the Hispanic community.
Sure.
I was at a meeting of the American Jewish Committee recently, and they were talking about reaching to the Hispanic community. There is a lot in common in terms of they feel like minorities being persecuted, and so obviously they were saying there was 2% or 3% of the population. The Hispanic population is obviously larger than that. The Asian population is the fastest growing population. So have you contacted the Asian?
Done again. Everything is in the last 4 weeks. I will go anywhere where people want me. So I've knocked on doors in Hispanic communities, knocked on doors in Asian communities. I've not gone to any events for the Asian community. I did go to an event. What was it called? It was Latino business people in the city of Philadelphia had an event probably about 3 weeks ago, and I went there and ended up speaking there. Just surprised. I just went, and then they said, "Drew, you want to get up on stage?" I said, "Absolutely." I think it was like 2 days after the special election occurred. So
don't miss any opportunity.
Oh, I don't miss any opportunities. No, I was up there. I had nothing prepared, but I actually like speaking in front of people. It doesn't bother me. In fact, I would rather speak in front of 10,000 people than knock on doors, because I feel it's a necessary evil to knock on doors. But people nowadays, they don't want you knocking on their doors, or even call. Yeah, we all hate the robocalls, or the potential spam when you look on your phone. So it's a necessary evil, though. I mean, people do it. We have robocalls. I knock on doors all the time, and some people love it. And I like when I go to communities and they say a Republican has never knocked on my door before.
Do you think the polls are skewed by the fact that so many people just operate from their cell phones? And because it was a lot easier when we all had landlines.
Yeah, I'm very curious on how the polls work, because I'm a super voter. I was a super voter when I was a Democrat. I'm a super voter now. I've never gotten polled in my life, so I don't know how they do it. I think, honestly, a lot of people, I think it always skews Democrat by no reason other than I think Republicans are distrusting of elections, whether it's perception or reality. I think that's why you see, I think Dr. Oz has this election won. I'll be honest with you. I think I think he was always ahead, and I always thought he was going to win it's going to be close, and I don't think we're going to know election night, but I always thought he was going to win. And then after the debate, I don't think it's even in question.
I don't think the debate helped, and the Democrats have been sort of reacting to the bad news. I think we have a clip that probably Danny could play for us. A hot mic caught Chuck Schumer sharing election strategy with Joe Biden and saying that the Pennsylvania Senate debate did not hurt. It didn't hurt Democrats too much. The too much is the qualifier there.
Too much, yeah.
But it inevitably hurt.
It was hard to watch. I honestly felt, I don't agree with Fetterman's policies, but I felt bad for him. I mean, it was really hard to watch him try to put words together. And I thought Dr. Oz was going to win a close race before that. I think Dr. Oz picked up 3 or 4 points. And I'm not going to say it's over, and I still think it's going to be close, but I think
hoping.
Dr. Oz wins.
I'm still
No,
hoping.
you're not, Mr. Mendez. Come on.
I hope, because here's my argument. Fetterman will recover, and in a couple of months he will be back to normal. Oz will still be an idiot in 2 months, and he will still espouse the wrong ideas. And
you might disagree with him, Mr. Mendez, but he is not an idiot. He's a brilliant. He is brilliant. He's a brilliant
listen to him.
surgeon, and he's a brilliant
He
business
sounds more
person.
like the orange genius that proclaimed to be a stable genius. So he sounds like that sometimes.
But I know you're not a socialist, Mr. Mendez, so I don't know how you back John Fetterman.
That's the language being used by Republicans to tag Democrats who oppose their insane ideas, accusing everybody of being a socialist.
Well, I will say this, Mr. Mendez, when on a federal level, when they just, after the pandemic, during the pandemic, people needed money to survive. I absolutely agree with that. But the pandemic was over, and the Build Back Better program just kept printing money and sending it out to people. That is socialism. It is. When you're I got a $300 check now as a child tax credit. It was just a prepayment on my taxes. But I'm like, not that I don't need money. I can always need money. But why are they printing money and sending it to me? All it's good. And we Republicans kept saying, if you print money and you send it to people, it's only going to cause inflation. And the Democrats say, no, it's not going to cause inflation. We got this. We're going to build back better. and we're at 8-9% inflation. So that is socialism, and that's what happens with socialism. You have inflation when you have capitalism, but then you have socialist policies that are out there. It causes inflation. And when you have Democrats for 4 years, I love Democrats now saying how they love the police, because I was there watching as a candidate telling the Democrats telling everyone to defund the police I saw ACAB everywhere. All cops are bastards. And Democrats just said, hey, that's okay. We're not defending them. Republicans, we came out and defended them. Now Democrats are coming out and defending the police and saying how we need more police out there, we need more funding for the police, and it's not genuine, Mr. Mendez. And I don't think
that was an error by extreme elements within the Democratic
But
Party.
Hey,
you know that, and it's sort of disingenuous to say that that's the Democratic Party's
but
position.
it is. So
it's not the official position. It's not on any platform of any Democrat, any candidate running for office right now. And you name one candidate.
Oh,
His
no,
platform says, I oppose the police.
Mr. Mendez, I 100% agree with you that the Democrats are now not saying it anymore because they realized it was a mistake. They do things for votes. That Democrats do. Look, Republicans do too. But they were not out defending the police force. The police who were just getting vilified every time something happened. Look, George Floyd was murdered, and I will say he was murdered by that officer, and that officer was convicted, and he deserved to be convicted. But the Democrats did not come out and defend the police. When they needed our support, and I say the public support the most, when they were getting vilified, Republicans came out and defended them, Democrats didn't. So you might not say it's a written policy. It's definitely not a written policy now. Now they're saying they're best friends again. They want to support the police. They have always supported the police. I see it at every level. Fetterman is saying he supports the police, but where was he 2-3 years ago when he was a lieutenant governor, when they were vilifying the police? Did he come out and say, we have to stop saying these things?
No, but where was Mitch McConnell also?
I think all Republicans came out and defended.
No,
and defended. I know
Mitch
I did.
McConnell?
I think I would say.
The only memorable quote from Mitch McConnell recently is, after we get elected, we will tell you what our platform is, what we plan to do. That's the most memorable quote.
I don't think it's a secret what the platform is.
A very cynical position to take. Not to say, this is what we plan to do, which we know what the Republicans plan to do if they take office. Among those, some really atrocious future policies to persecute Democrats for revenge. And they're going to start impeachment proceedings. Marjorie Taylor Greene already has something ready against Biden. Well, that's what they're going to do if they take office?
I don't believe President Biden should be impeached. I didn't think President Trump should be impeached. But let's talk about it, Mr. Mendez. Before President Trump took office, they were talking about impeaching him. Literally, he could not have done anything to warrant being impeached, but the Democrats said, we're going to impeach him as soon as he gets in office. So love him or hate him, they did not treat President Trump in a way that is respectful for the presidency of the United States. They wanted to impeach the guy before he got in. And if you love him or hate him, you can't do that, but that's what they did. So should there be revenge? No. But is it understandable to a certain level when at least he's in office when they're quote unquote trying to impeach him? And I'm not sure they are. The president has done nothing that deserves impeachment. He's completely incompetent, and his Build Back Better program is not working. But
since we are comparing, Joe Biden had a very distinguished career as a senator for Delaware, and whether you like some of those policies or not, he had a record that he could present to the public and say, this is who I am, this is what I have done, this is what I believe. Mr. Trump had nothing. He had a show to demonstrate his skills as a salesman. That's all he had. So there was reason to impeach this guy who was not qualified to do anything. He was not qualified to run for office, period.
So are you saying that no one who... So by that manner, then no one except an incumbent should ever run for an office. I don't have any qualifications as a city council member because I've never been a city council member. So I don't have any. What if I ran for president next cycle? Mr.
I would campaign against you.
Would you vote for me?
I would say you're not qualified to
I
run.
would vote for you for president, Mr. Mendez.
No, I would refuse that.
You were my friend, and I would still vote for you.
No, I would do like Lyndon Johnson. If elected, I would not serve. No, absolutely. I mean, there was reason to impeach Trump from the beginning. He has no qualifications to run for office.
But you need to do
He
something
never
illegal.
did anything.
You need to do
He
something
never
illegal
did.
to be impeached. You can't impeach someone because you don't like them. And look at what
For
Larry.
lack of intelligence, lack of ethics, lack of principles,
Mr. Mendez.
women complaining about him.
We would
all
have to
the things.
impeach at least half of the senators in the United States Senate if
How about,
that was the
how
case.
about his the stripper that he had an affair with, and she was in public saying that he had done it and he had paid to keep it quiet.
But that's still not impeachable, Mr. Mendez.
Of course. Are you kidding me? That is so.
Should John F. Kennedy have been impeached? He was known to do many of these things that you were saying.
If it had been known.
Oh,
ahead
it
of
was
time.
known. Marilyn Monroe
if it
came
had
and
been-
sang happy birthday
if it
to
had-
him. Everyone knew why she was singing happy birthday
she was
to him.
happy to do that.
She gave him a present by singing and gave him a present probably before and maybe even
Anyway,
after that day.
We have to go as far back as JFK.
I'm just giving an example.
Argue about
Oh, well, we don't have to go back that far, Mr. Mendez. I mean, we do have President Bill Clinton. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, well,
There we go.
You want to go back
That
to
wasn't-
Richard Nixon and Watergate? I'd be glad to
He was
debate that one
impeached,
too.
and he was impeached.
Exactly, well deserved. Now, Trump was impeached twice.
Oh, he didn't deserve it either time. Look, you can not like him. You can say he's not a good person,
He's not a good person. I do not like him.
that's not impeachable.
He's not qualified.
But that's
to
not
run-
impeachable.
He's not qualified to run for a baseball
that's not impeachable.
manager.
I mean, right now the state house is looking to impeach Larry Krasner, and he's saying you can't impeach me because of my ideology. I was elected fairly in an election. Now, I argue that it is not. We're not trying. I'm saying we I'm in the legislature, which I'm not, but the legislature wants to impeach him because of dereliction of duty. He is not doing his job. That is an impeachable offense. You can't impeach. He's right. You can't impeach him for his ideology, but you can impeach him because he's not prosecuting criminals. That's his job, by the way. I don't think he remembers that. He thinks he's a criminal defense attorney still.
Trump could not be impeached because he was not prosecuting criminals. He could be impeached because he is a criminal. So, as we know from January
Mr. Mendez,
6th,
I need to tell you something.
From January 6th.
Mr. Mendez, I need to tell you something.
Yes.
President Trump is no longer the president. He's the former president of the United States. So
Former president.
He's the former president of the
Defeated,
United
twice
States.
impeached.
Former
Unethical,
president.
unprincipled, crazy.
You gotta let it go,
Amen.
Mr. Mendez. You gotta let it go.
I will let it go. And you know what? If you do run for office, I will impeach you. First
I am
of all,
running for office.
on this show.
You're gonna try to
I-
impeach me
no.
before I even get into office.
Yes, I will. No, for president. I mean, no,
For president,
for
okay.
city council.
For city
You have
council?
my support.
Oh, thank
and
you.
Here's,
For president?
Here's proof that I'm
That's
supporting
right.
you. We're going to take a brief pause here in Usala Radio, the Roundtable. My friend Drew Murray has hijacked this show, as you can see, as a testimony of that. No se vayan, regresamos en un momento.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Señores siguientes de Usa la Radio, estamos aquí de nuevo con la Mesa Redonda. Estamos en compañía de Drew Murray, who is running for City Council at large. And so, press button 211, that's what Drew said.
211, that is my number.
Well, you said the campaign is moving along. Now, tell me something. What do you think is the main role of a city councilman?
So I would even say there's two answers to that. So if you're a district council person, it is a little different than at large. So when you're one of the 10 district council people and you're literally the head of that specific district, one of your main roles are zoning issues, issues that directly affect your district, legislation that directly affects your district. As an at-large, I would argue that probably the most important thing, at least from the public standpoint of what they want from you, is constituent services. If they call you and there's an issue, they want it taken care of. Oftentimes, their first call is to the is their council person in their district.
Right.
But if they're not getting what they want from the council person, they will oftentimes reach out to an at-large. And of course, we're trying to, I would try to pass legislation, but as a Republican on City Council, especially for this specific election as an at-large, I'm only in it for, let's say I win, I would only be in for, my term would be over in a year, so I would still have to win again next year. So, in the short term, hopefully I win on November 8th, I would say the number one priority for me is constituent services for this city council at large, this specific term. And I think on the at-large side, I think that's probably the number one thing that people really want to see from you. They call you, they want you to get something done.
Right. What in your experience, because we were talking about experience in order to gain office, what in your experience do you feel has prepared you well for this?
So I'm a community guy. I'm a neighborhood activist. I'm an RCO leader. An RCO is a registered community organization. I know you know what it means, but not everyone does. An RCO is basically your neighborhood association. So I've always been involved in my community. For over 10 years, I've been the president of the Friends of Cox Park, which is a local tiny park in Logan Square in Center City. For over 10 years, I've been the board member of the Logan Square Neighborhood Association. So that's my local RCO, which is also in Center City, from Spring Garden to Market Street, Broad Street to the Schuylkill River. I was president of that organization for 4 years, and that's a tough job. Most people don't realize how difficult those jobs are, especially with the zoning issues that you deal with as an RCO, specifically in a place like Logan Square, where we do everything from an RSA 5 townhome all the way to CMX 5 Comcast 2 tower. I mean, those are the things that we did. I'm on the board of Center City District. I'm on the Finance Council of the Cathedral Basilica of Saints Peter and Paul. That is my parish downtown where I go to Mass every Sunday, Mr. Mendez. Hopefully I'm seeing you in Mass every Sunday. And then lastly, I'm the chairman of the Philadelphia Crosstown Coalition, which is a coalition of neighborhood associations, RCOs all over the city. So they encompass all over the city. And I always leave that one for last because I'm a Republican. They've elected me as their chairman, even though I'm probably only one of 2 or 3 Republicans in that room when we have meetings. Because neighborhood associations, well, Philadelphia itself is 7-to-1 ratio Republicans to Democrats. So it just goes to, you would think, and it comes true, that the neighborhood associations are mostly run by Democrats. But they elect me as a leader because they think, number one, that I am a leader. They believe that I have common sense solutions for the Crosstown Coalition and common sense solution. That's something we always say. Jim Hasher is the other Republican running. We always talk about common sense solutions. We got to get back to common sense. We just, in the last 5 years, we've had absolutely zero common sense in the city of Philadelphia when it comes to crime.
You're talking about Mayor Kenny? Yeah.
I was actually thinking of someone else, but Mayor Kenny is more like
even the DA?
The district attorney.
People are trying to impeach. Talking about impeachment.
They should impeach him.
People are trying to
Absolutely. When you don't do your job,
yeah.
If I'm elected at City Council and I basically don't show up for my job, or I do another job that I think is my job, then I should be impeached.
Yeah,
Larry Krasner is the chief prosecutor of the city of Philadelphia, and he doesn't do his job.
Yeah, he had been invited to this program.
I was there that day.
And yeah.
Maybe one of the days, maybe he's been invited many times.
He didn't show up, and so that was a sign of red. But he was unpopular in his own office.
Absolutely.
I was close to some of the people in his office who said it's really an atrocity that this guy is what he's doing right there.
Yeah.
And so he proceeded to prove them right.
Yeah. And that day we had Carlos Vega come in, and he said,
right.
He had inside, he understands the way the district attorney's office worked, and he was one of the people who, like many people, Krasner came in and just fired everyone, people with experience, because he wanted people to follow his ideology exactly the way he wanted it. So he went all around the country, going to the elite private Ivy League schools, elite schools on the West Coast for these young, I'm sure very intelligent attorneys coming out of law school, but they had no experience. So now he has an office that has no experience. It's great in his mind because they all follow exactly what his ideology is, because I'm sure that was the interview process.
Right.
What do you think about my ideology? And as long as they said they liked it, they were probably hired. Yeah. And they have no experience, and that's being shown in the courtroom. Even cases that he wants to prosecute, he's losing because he's incompetent. His office is incompetent.
So you think with attributing the high rate of crime in the city is attributed to him?
Absolutely. I call it trickle-up criminality, Mr. Mendez. When you don't prosecute lower-level crime, when he tells people during the pandemic, we're not going to prosecute anything under theft that's under $500, well, then people are going to walk in and steal $499 worth of products at CVS, at Rite Aids, at Wawa's. And look where we are now. Rite Aids and CVS's all over Center City, at least in my community, are closing down because there's so much theft. They're a business. They have to make money. They're not making money. It's dangerous. Wawa's are closing because of incidents like happened a couple months ago when, a gang of 50 kids came in and trashed the store. When you don't prosecute those crimes, and everyone's like, oh, that's not that big a deal. But it does become a big deal because those crimes lead to larger crimes. A friend of mine from the prep was driving in front of Egan's Oval. Another big problem are ATVs and dirt bikes, illegal ATVs and dirt bikes on the road. They bumped and they shot his car up. They tried to kill him. You know the guy. I don't want to say his name on.
That's a plague. And look, I hear them downtown.
Yeah, all the time.
Make tremendous noise and purposely. I mean, they will create that sort of. It sort of creates tension in the air and all that stuff. So they're happy to do that. You mentioned that there's a 7-1 difference between Republicans and Democrats. So in view of that, what do you think is going to happen with the vote?
So this November 8th, the special election, I'm going head-to-head with a gentleman, Jim Harity. There's also a libertarian on the ticket. Am I a long shot? Yes. Do I think I'm going to surprise a lot of people? Absolutely, because I go to a lot of communities, a lot of underserved communities, Mr. Mendez, and people are unhappy. We talk about the Democrats only come around election time. They're not even going to these communities now because they think this election is already over from a local municipal standpoint. They think Democrats are going to go out and they're going to vote at the top of the ticket for the Democrats. They're not really worried about it. I think we're going to surprise a lot of people. Am I a long shot? Yes. Is it impossible for me to win? No. And I think no matter what, Jim Hasher and I, the other Republican on the ticket running for City Council at large, and we go head to head. So Jim and I are not running against each other. Jim Hasher is not running against me at all. We're going to surprise a lot of people, and that's why we're spending the money. I have billboards out there. I have literature, tons of lawn signs going up, a lot of help from the community. And when I go to these underserved communities, I go to a lot of them, and I love when I hear this. You're the first Republican that's ever come here, and a lot of times I hear you're the first politician or wannabe politician to come here because we never see them in the community. Yeah. But as long as, these people also have to come out and vote. That's another problem in Philadelphia. People don't get out and vote.
Well, we support you. I am not a Republican. I used to be. But now I feel like Groucho Marx. I would not be a member of any organization that would have me as a member.
That's right.
So,
come on, Mr. Menich, we'll get you back. Well, you and my father.
I am very disappointed with what the Republican Party, the direction it has taken right now. On a national level, what they are doing right now, the threat of placing vigilantes at the ballot boxes, I mean,
I would not. That's not a concentrated effort by the Republican
Party. In Arizona, it is.
I would not. I'll have to look into that one, Mr.
Look
Mendez.
into it, because
I will look
that's
into
happening
it.
right now.
I mean, putting people at the polls as poll watchers for election integrity is not the same thing as putting vigilantes. So
the recommendation is carry weapons because something could happen. Violence could break out. Well, they are the ones who bring violence to these places.
Well, I don't agree with that. And if they're poll watchers, then they're not allowed to carry weapons inside. So
right. Well, I would vote for you because you're a common sense Republican. But I mean, That is not where the National Party is right now.
But do you like where the Democrat Party goes? I mean, you talked about President Biden and what he's
I
done
don't like
in
what
the
the
past.
fringes
Yeah.
on either party.
Well, that's, I think,
what they are doing.
look, I've never been called a far-right Republican. I used to be a Democrat. I consider myself very much a moderate Republican. But the one thing I would say about, there's a lot of people in the Republican Party like me who, we're not going to the far-right fringe. But look at President Biden. You said he used to be a moderate in everything he did. His views now and his policies now are much closer to AOC and Bernie than they are of John F. Kennedy or even I'll go soon, Bill Clinton. He follows whatever the party tells him to do. And the policies he's doing right now, Mr. Mendez, are not the Joe Biden policies, I would say, of 1999 or 2005 or 2010. So,
I agree that he's closer to the progressives right now than anything. The one thing about Clinton was that he did govern from the middle, even though he got elected because of his sort of socialist ideology. But he governed from the middle, and I think that's what every president should do, because that way he's not discriminating against the part of the population that didn't vote for him. But anyway, the Republican Party has engaged in dividing this country. Almost everything that you hear from the Republicans is divisive.
Well, President Biden was part of what he preached about while he was running for president was he was going to be the person that brings the party back together. That certainly isn't what he's saying now, Mr. Mendez. He calls Republicans liars, and then it'll be like, well, MAGA Republicans, but we know what he meant. He thinks Republicans are liars. He doesn't like anyone who is right in the middle. Honestly, I don't think he likes many people on the left who consider themselves moderate. He is moving as far left as he possibly can, Mr. Mendez, and whether that's because he's being told that to do or if that's what he believes. The Democrat Party, you could say what you want about, look, no party's perfect, but the Democrat Party is moving further and further left to the progressive ideals. I think, look, both have their fringes, but I think the Republican Party in many ways is staying, in the middle of their party. You're not seeing everyone going to the extreme right. There are some, absolutely. And and there were always some on the left, but the party itself, people said, why, Drew, why did you leave the Democrat Party? I said, I didn't leave the party, they left me. There used to be room for people like me who were moderates, who were pro-business, who were pro-life, and then we were told, literally by the head of the Democrat National Committee, if you're pro-life, we don't want you in our party anymore. So obviously, they're the party of diversity who don't agree with diverse opinions and diverse thoughts. So I left. They literally told me they didn't want me in the party.
Well, that position, that pro-life position, is one issue that is very serious. And we know what Dr. Oz has said, and he says it's a crime to have an abortion, period.
No, that's not what he said. In fact, just in the debate, he said he would allow exceptions for
since
when the mother's life is in danger. That's always the case. And people talk about
all along he has said that there were no exceptions.
No, that's not true. And when people talk about the life of the mother, let's say an ectopic pregnancy. Even pro-lifers like me will say that's not an abortion. That is, the mother is going to die. The baby is going to die. That is not an abortion. It's still tragic in my mind because I do believe that baby is a life within the womb. But no pro-life person would sit there and say that, no, that pregnancy can't be terminated because neither the mother nor the child is going to survive. That's not an abortion. That's ending a pregnancy because both are going to die. We're pro-life in that, yes, we want people to take responsibility for their actions, and there's got to be culpability. And if you make choices in your life, then you have to live with those choices. So you should not be able to terminate a healthy baby unless the life of the mother is truly at risk. 99% of pro-life people believe that. And that is absolutely what Dr. Oz said in the debate.
I still think he's not qualified to serve as senator, but that's another story.
But John Fetterman is.
He's
So let's talk about John Fetterman. So Dr. Oz, you don't like him, that's okay. He's a doctor. He's very smart. No matter you
He's
have to. He's a business person. Okay, but what did John Fetterman do before the age of 50 that makes him qualified? And he's only 52, Mr. Mendez. He has not made over a couple $1,000s a year in his whole life. So he's had nothing. He's the mayor of Braddock. That's 2,000 people. That's like you and me being the mayor of the 3-block radius of where we're sitting right now, because there's probably more. That's about 2,000 people. He has zero qualification, and now he does have health issues, and I'm not making fun of those health issues. I would never do that. I felt bad for him at the debate, but the bottom line is he is not qualified, and he is unprepared to be a senator of the United States.
But he has a record as having served at the political position, which Dr. Oz has never done.
What record?
No?
Mayor of Braddock of 2,000 people, or the lieutenant governor where he hardly showed up to work? I'm not. Lieutenant governor might be the best job outside the vice president of the United States, because you don't do anything. You have some power, but you don't have to do anything.
But I mean, the people from where he was mayor in Braddock, they respect him. They say he was a good mayor. So that's a record. What is Dr. Az's record?
How difficult is?
What does he have? I don't care if you only run a town of 100 people.
Most mayors, okay, so I was the president of Logan Square Neighborhood Association,
yes.
Right? I had more power and more influence as president of Logan Square Neighborhood Association, and by the way, way more people, 8,000 people in Logan Square versus 2,000 in Braddock. Most people who have a job like that, the mayor is their secondary job, because they have to make money in real life. He did not have to make money in real life. He better have done a good job. It's probably supposed to be a part-time job that maybe 5 to 10 hours a week. He was able to do it 50 hours a week because he got a paycheck from his mom and dad every week, every month, or whatever it is. And he lived in a house that was paid for by his parents. That's not, Mr. Mendez, hey, I wish I grew up rich. You know my father. He had 5 children. I say with Caitlin, my niece, there's 6 of us. He was a teacher. My mother worked in education or real estate her entire life. We were never rich. I would love if my dad was rich and could give me, a few $1,000s every week. I would not.
We all would love that.
He'd probably help you out, Mr. Mendez.
That doesn't disqualify him to.
Doesn't disqualify him, but it absolutely, certainly doesn't qualify him. He has He has no experience whatsoever for this job.
Dr. Oz is a carpetbagger. He's from New Jersey.
So is Hillary Clinton. Was from she was no. You have to say if you're going to compare him as a carpetbagger, you have to bring up the fact that Hillary Clinton, I don't think, ever stepped foot in New York.
But Hillary was a national figure who.
Well, Dr. Oz is recognized everywhere and is a national figure.
Entertainer.
No,
as an entertainer.
Hey, you know what? You got to do what you got to do, Mr. Mendez.
He should have remained.
Well, then, if you want to put it that way, then you can go. Hillary Clinton wasn't famous because of what she did, because she was married, because she was
Secretary of State.
She was Secretary of State because she was married to President Clinton. I mean, if that's the way you're going to get, and I think Hillary Clinton
was a senator,
and
she was very able.
No. Well, we're talking
that's
before
how she could run for office.
No, we're talking about before she was senator. We're talking about she was the wife, she was the first lady, and I'm not taking anything away from her.
You know what? We have to.
We're going to take a break?
Yeah, we're going to take a break. And on the other side, we're going to discuss issues more at large, not so much local.
Okay.
There are many issues at large that I would like to talk about. Estamos aquí en la mesa redonda con Drew Murray, who is running for the City Council at large. No se vayan, regresamos en un momento.
Encuentra el bosque más cercano en descubreelbosque.org. El bosque, más cerca de lo que crees.
Señores oyentes de la Mesa Redonda, estamos aquí de nuevo con su programa The Roundtable. Estamos en compañía de Drew Murray, who is running for City Council at large. And this program is being directed by our friend here, Danny Ramos, who is a very able technician, and he makes us look good here. Well, Drew, there are other issues from around the country, what is happening with elections in many states that people did not expect to be controversial. So I would like to talk about that a little bit. But other than that, there's one item in the pamphlet that you're presenting that caught my attention, and is addressing education. It's a topic that's very close to my heart. I've always been interested in education, and I was in favor of that soda tax to support pre-K. I don't know how you feel about that, but
I was in favor early on, both from an universal pre-K standpoint, and as you see in my palm card, I'm in favor of universal pre-K, and because of what it did for Parks and Recreation and rebuild. Not that I ever loved taxes, but it was supposed to be a couple pennies on top of a drink, and it is not that, number one. It's a huge increase, and when I ran in 2019, when I went around the city and I went to every community, underserved communities, I realized who was paying this tax more than anyone else. I have a car. I'm in the suburbs a lot. My dad lives on the main line, so I go out there. If I wanted to, I don't. If I buy a sugary drink, a sweetened beverage, which is another thing, it's not just soda, it's other drinks, anything that's a quote-unquote sweetened beverage. If I wanted to and I cross City Line Avenue, I can get my soda over there, and while I'm there, get my groceries. I realized that people in underserved communities that don't have cars, they don't have that ability to just jump in a car and cross over City Line Avenue or drive to New Jersey to get their sweetened beverages. And by the way, while a lot of people are doing that, they're buying other groceries. So, this tax that we're trying to help these underserved communities is really the burden is on those underserved communities, because they're the ones who don't have the mobility to be able to go buy their sweetened beverages outside the city. And by the way, I do believe that a lot of people are leaving the city to buy their sweetened beverages. And while they're out there, guess what else they're doing? They're buying their groceries, because they have the car out there. They don't have to pay the 2% sales tax, so they're only paying 6% at a state level when they're not all groceries. A lot of groceries are not taxed, but it's always cheaper in the suburbs. So I'm 100% completely opposed to the soda tax now. We can still keep universal pre-K. It needs to be a broader tax base to support universal pre-K and the rebuild program. And we can find waste in city government. I know you believe that as well as I do, that there is waste in all government. And specifically here in the city of Philadelphia, we can find the money to fund both universal pre-K and the rebuild program for Parks and Recs.
Yeah, but I think it's beyond finding that what money is being wasted. I think this country has forever spent too much money on the military, for instance, and a lot of that money should go to education. Look, I always point out that two countries, Japan and Germany, where education was important and remains important, they successfully recovered from the destruction of World War II. In the 50s and 60s, they just took off, and was based on the fact that they respect education. The German system, where if you don't qualify for academic endeavors, you pick a trade. You go electrician, carpenter. That's what we need in this country.
No, absolutely. We need more trade schools overall, we need more trade schools in our high schools. Father Judge has a trade school now. I forget if it's welding. I think it's welding. Specifically for that purpose. I think, and look, I think both sides are guilty of this. We've been telling everybody, every high schooler in the city of Philadelphia, for example, that they need to go to college. They have to go to college. There is no other path, go to college. And I think everyone should have the opportunity to go to college, but that doesn't mean everyone should. Right. I mean, imagine, I know what union carpenters make, and this is public knowledge, they're making $40 an hour, plus great benefits. With a little bit of overtime, they're making six figures. And they can do that coming right out of high school without any student loans, which is another issue altogether. And yes, before you ask me, I am against paying off people's student loans. I paid mine off, and I think everyone should pay them off. These kids can come out of high school, go right into a trade, and make, maybe not right away, but within a couple years, make $40 an hour and not have a single penny of student loan debt.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those things. I am from Colombia, and I remember very clearly that the country, the people in charge of education, decided early on that it was important to have people in the trades, like roofers, electricians, and so on, and they had schools dedicated to that. It just makes sense. I mean, not everybody is geared towards a major in English or history. We need people like that, but we need. I mean, when I pay my plumber, when he comes for 1 hour and I see what I have to pay him, I say, well, I chose the wrong career.
Yes. Or you should go, or you should just go learn how to plunge a toilet or whatever needed to be done. We don't need to get into that.
You pay people who know how to do
Yes.
that. You know, that's one thing. I do not hammer anything. I do not break anything because there are people who know how to do it.
Yes.
And the whole that's how our economy works. You pay somebody to do the things you
Well, that's how
cannot
a
do.
capitalist economy works, Mr. Mendez. I don't know if that's what a socialist economy. That's not how that works.
Oh, but here
there we go.
go.
We had to go back. But we talk about education, and the one thing, and I believe we need a fair funding program from the state here in Philadelphia. We have more poverty than in other areas. Some of it can be blamed on policies in Philly, but urban areas are always going to have more poverty. So I think we need a fair funding formula. It's hard to say. But at the same time, you also have to look at how much we are spending per student in the city of Philadelphia. It's $17,500. That's a lot of money. You would think that's enough money to get a good quality education for every single child here in Philadelphia. So I think we also need to look at that. Why is $17,500 per student not enough to give them a quality education? It's
The bureaucracy, the overhead.
yeah, absolutely. Their pension issues that need to be, they were underfunded pensions under Mayor Rendell, and I actually like Mayor Rendell in many ways. He was a good business person, but everyone's like, oh, it's like they kick the can down the road. We'll put money in the pensions when we need to, and that's part of the reason why it's that overhead cost basically that is driving up the cost of education for our children now.
It's an incredibly expensive and complex system. When my friend Pedro Ramos was in charge of the schools, because of all the problems they had in the state put him in charge, he talked about the number of buses that were needed. The transportation problem alone required like a few people dedicated to doing that alone. So it's something that has very difficult solutions, expensive ones, and apparently we're not spending the money in the right place because we still don't have a well-trained labor force in this city, which is one reason many companies stay away from the city.
I would argue, and I agree with you, but I would argue the tax burden is one of the main reasons. We have the wage tax. We talked about the soda tax, the real estate tax, the transfer tax. Do you know what the transfer tax is currently in Philadelphia? It's been a long time since I bought my house, almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is now? The transfer tax is 4.28%. You know how much it is in Bucks County? 2%. So 2%.
We should move to Bucks County.
We should. No, I'm not going to do it, Mr. Mendez. I'm holding strong here in Philadelphia. I'm going to make changes. But no, I mean and people talk about affordable housing. How can you have affordable housing when one of the best ways to fight poverty and to have wealth that can be passed down to your children is owning a home? And if you're buying a $100,000 house in Philadelphia, you have to pay $4,280 for a transfer tax. You only have to pay $2,000 in Bucks County. It's a barrier to entry, but it's something no one's talking about. I mean, I think the real estate tax overall is a huge issue. I mean, we talked about it on break. Mine's up 40% this year. Is what my taxes are up. Double since when I moved into the city.
That's how I feel. I would not be able to afford my house right now the way they're taxing me. So it creates inequalities in the system. There are people who don't own homes who have a better lifestyle because they don't have to worry about the taxes. So, we have a few minutes to discuss other issues at large, and I think that how do you see the race to keep, for the Democrats to keep control of the House, and the Republicans attempt to stop the vote, and do everything possible. So, what do you think?
I don't think we're trying to stop the vote. I think, look, I'm not one of those people who thinks that the presidential election was stolen, but I think there were some issues, especially over the pandemic, with election integrity.
I think you should call Mr. Trump and tell him.
No. I believe our elections are secure. But do I think the Republicans are going to take back the Senate and the House? My gut says yes. And I think the race here rate in the state of Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, is going to help us get back the Senate. I think Dr. Oz is going to win. I know you don't want to hear that, but he's going to. I think we take back both, and I hope we do have some ability to govern from the middle. That's how we can get things done. Or else it's just going to be, if we just keep going from one side to the other, we're not going to get anything done. We're going to pass legislation that gets reversed a couple years later when the pendulum swings to the other side.
Well,
so yes, I think we take the House and the Senate.
I am hoping that is not the case. I'm hoping that minorities and women will wake up. Women whose reproductive rights are in danger. Do you agree with Roe versus Wade, the way it was dealt with?
No.
No. Okay.
No, I don't agree with Roe v. Wade.
No.
No.
Right.
And by the way, it was bad law. Even the Supreme Court justices after who were in favor of abortion rights said that Roe v. Wade went too far. They legislated from the bench. They absolutely did. They should have stopped at whether or not the person they shouldn't have defined the 20 weeks. They went too far. It should have been overturned, if only by a matter of law. But no, I don't. I'm pro-life, Mr. Mendez. With exceptions if the mother's life is in danger, absolutely.
Right. Well, I just hope that people wake up in Pennsylvania right now.
I think
the whole thing that democracy is in danger is no exaggeration. I think across the country, that's what's happening. If Republicans take over, that it becomes real.
So we're sitting in an Hispanic community, a Latino community. What do you think? What have the Democrats done for this community in the city of Philadelphia over the past 50 plus years? What have they done to help them? Let's be honest, Mr. Mendez. So where do you think the Hispanic and Latino community of Philadelphia, how should they vote locally?
Well, see, that you got me there, because I that's one of my pet peeves, that the Democrats have controlled the city for more than 60 years?
Almost 60 years, yep.
And the state of the city right now is dire, to say the least. So I don't know, maybe choose better Democrat city council, mayors, and all that. And
we need to choose better Republicans, Mr. Mendez. We need to choose Republicans. I mean, at least we'll have common sense. At least
I agree.
We need some balance.
I agree that we need competition, because as long as one party is in total control for more than 60 years, that is one tremendous problem.
I mean, just look at what the Democrats have done in 2 years with total control. We went from having an incredible economy down to we're purely in a recession. That's only 2 years with the executive and Congress being on the blue side. But
well, Drew, as a colleague at this station,
a friend,
a
student, a former student,
and I are good friends. And as a former Republican, I wish you a lot of success in your campaign.
Thank you, Mr.
I hope this is not the end of our conversations. We'll do this again.
As long as I keep winning debates, I'll come back here every week, Mr. Mendez.
When did you win? I don't remember.
Every time today. I think I'm 10-0 right now. If we're watching.
Señores oyentes de Usala Media, hemos llegado al final de esta edición de la Mesa Redonda de Roundtable. Muchas gracias por su sintonía en el día de hoy. Los esperamos hasta la próxima. Greetings from the city of brotherly love. I am Fernando Mendez, host of the Roundtable. We invite you to listen to our discussion of the themes of the day when we bring you regional, national, and international news. This show is sponsored by Pagano's Market and Bar at 20th and Market.